Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Spiritual Fitness. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today where we'll discuss problems are our friends with your host, Vaish, veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and former monk. We're close to 25 members on Zoom and close to 50 members watching live on Facebook. I have Shweka helping me out in managing social media today. Good afternoon, Vaish. Welcome to another episode of Spiritual Fitness.
Well, thank you very much, JM. It's great to be back here live.
Yes.
Uh, and I like the title today, that problems are our friends. I have a lot of friends, which is good to know. Yeah, welcome back, everybody. We have a respite here where we can delve into the metaphysical for a while. That's a place where we get relief, actually. I was reading a very philosophical book recently called the Tattva Sandarbha. It was written about 550 years ago in Sanskrit. It's translated now several times. And in it talks about epistemology, but it also goes into some of the stages of consciousness that we all go through at certain times of the day and night. And in one of the passages, there is a quotation, a citation from one of the Upanishads. As most of you know, you've heard of Upanishadic wisdom and the Upanishads. They're known to be thousands of years old. Wisdom literatures, I call them, wisdom texts. My friend Dan McCready appreciates that. He writes in regularly. He likes that phraseology. So in these wisdom texts, there's a statement from an ancient book called the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. And it talks about how when we sleep, this is actually consistent with modern sleep studies, that the synapses in the brain narrow down into one main pathway when we go into very deep sleep. This is called susupti, or sleep without dreams. No rapid eye movement. And in that state, we actually have proximity to our original conscious source. And that's why we feel nourished when we come out of deep sleep. Very interesting. There have been other theories, even separate from that, taking from that opinion or from that source, that have opined in the same way. It's very interesting. One of the points I'm deriving from that is that when we can take a little time in the day, especially if we start our day with a connection to our spiritual, our higher selves, not just riding the merry-go-round of the mind and going one day to the next. You can really burn a whole year like that, can't you? Or a whole 10 years, and like, what was I doing? What were we thinking? And going a little deeper into who am I, what's going on inside, and trying to touch the web of the divine and feeling that refreshing sense that I'm not of this world. Someone was telling me recently, who got a vaccine, second vaccine against the the COVID-19 virus, and was saying how he felt somewhat liberated. Because I think, wow, now I'm inoculated. I can move around the world. And I was thinking, and when we inoculate ourselves spiritually from the influence of the mind, which tends to dwell or peddle inaccuracies and all kinds of horror stories. Why do I need to subscribe to that channel? If we find a more sublime channel we can tune into, and we watch that for a little while, and walk out, and people's like, wow, what happened to you? You look okay. Didn't you hear all the news? And I'm like, no, but I found some other stuff. So, it's important. It's important to take time. So I thank you very much. I'm saying all this as a very lengthy preface for saying thank you. Thank you all for being here. So this morning, let's start with a little mantra meditation. I'm going to try it a little differently today. Um, and normally we're doing a kind of meditation, silent meditation, where we close our eyes and we chant the mantra Om. But today I'm going to try keep our eyes open, and I introduce a little, just a little, what's called kirtan or chanting meditation. Now, it just take me a second to make sure that the sound is okay, because I have two options on my mic to click, and I'm going to depend on JM to shut me down if it doesn't work. When I play the sound, to see, actually we'll test and see which one's better. Is everyone okay so far? Give me a thumbs up if you're with me. I only see a few windows open today. If don't worry, if you're in your pajamas, it's okay. You can still hang out. But I know a lot of you are at work, so you keep it closed. Okay, so JM, what does this sound like right now?
Yeah, it's okay. It sounds okay.
And how about when I add this?
It's okay so far. Do you want to maybe play together? Well, it sounds good. Sounds great.
Okay?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. That's using what they call on Zoom original sound. I had our engineer give me a toggle switch so I could use either one. But this is going to take a little bit of exertion, so I'm taking off a garment. Please don't mind.
Even Zoom has original sound. Huh?
Yeah,
Even Zoom has.
even Zoom has original sound. That's right. Okay, so this mantra, you all know it. We've done it several times before. Nitai Gauranga. In the process of doing mantra meditation, there are two ways that are traditional. One is called japa, and we've done that in the last few classes. Japa is for yourself. It's your own private meditation, and you go deeply into a state of trance, seeing your higher self, distinguishing your higher self from your lower self. That is, you become the witness of your mind and your body. We start off usually with the breath, and then we start looking and seeing. Can you notice that your mind is moving and that you're the one noticing it? That means you're separate from it if you're watching it. This is a state called shakshitva, to be in a state of witnesshood. You're the one watching. So that's very powerful. If you can practice that throughout the day. And so in our mantra meditation, we can sit down and practice in the mornings or afternoon or evening. It doesn't matter when, hopefully in a serene environment, if you can find one where you live. And then repeat the mantra and simply listen to it. You know, I experiment with this when I get up in the morning, because I've been trained since I was a monk that the first sounds that come out of my mouth when I wake up are mantras. And it's very profound, because you can notice in that liminal state between sleep and awakened consciousness, sleeping and awakening consciousness, a kind of dichotomy that maybe you might not be aware of throughout the day, because you're just riding on the mind and going with it. But you can notice, oh, I'm switching from one state to another, and you have choices of what to do when you start coming into the world, so to speak, into the awakened world. And so when you introduce a mantra at that point, then it helps to reorganize your intention for the day. It's very powerful. That's what, you know, I was thinking just this morning when I woke up and I said my mantras as I was waking up, that I was thinking to myself, this is a kind of, it's so simple yet it's profound. So japa, then you say mantras, and it's for you to experiment. How long can I listen to them? And What experience am I getting from hearing the mantra? Man means mind, Shra means to deliver. So it delivers your mind from all the um, problems, from all the ways in which it's attaching itself to things in the world and then bringing them along, like one of those whirlwinds. It just carries everything with it. So then you find, oh, I'm actually not connected to all these things. It's a great relief. You inoculate yourself. And then there's kirtan. Kirtan uses the universal principle that music is within us already. We respond to it. Animals respond to it. Some say, some studies, I haven't totally verified all the studies, but that plants also have measurable responses to music and the kinds of music they listen to. I'm sure some of you have seen videos of people playing violin and the cows come listening, or the kangaroos, or whatever it is. Everybody likes music and rhythm. So one of the teachings of bhakti yoga is that music is primal, rhythm is primal, and it actually comes from the spiritual realm. So when you mix rhythm, for instance, the different ragas are different scales in which are evocative. They bring out various emotions. We know this just in Western music, the major and minor chords. Major chords are bright, marching music, we're happy. Minor chords, we're feeling perhaps melancholy, more somber, and so forth. And in Indian classical music, there are many combinations and permutations that make up raga, or the science of music, so it's emotive. So when you add mantra to music and rhythm, then you get this kind of marriage, the best of both worlds. And it can be very, I warn you, very addicting once you start doing it and experiencing it. And it's something that you can try this at home. Some people say don't try these things at home. Do try them at home. It doesn't take much. I carry with me my little keyboard. It's not an advertisement, but it's a Casio portable. I can carry it wherever I go, so that if somebody doesn't have a keyboard when I get there, I can use this. I also have a drum that I play. And, but you don't need all that. You can clap your hands and do the mantra, and vocal cords are extremely useful and portable. You can take them wherever you go. And it's amazing how we can coordinate between the mind and the vocal cords and make notes. So the mantra I introduced previously that is helpful for advancing spiritually, it's called Nitai Gauranga. And these two names are names of two avatars, Nitai and Gauranga. And when you say them, you'll feel yourself, kind of your heart opening up, and you'll feel joyful. And then afterwards, you may feel like just for no reason doing random acts of kindness for others. So I warn you about that too. If you start doing random acts of kindness to other people after you sing this mantra along, as we do it together, I gave a disclaimer, so don't blame me. If it breaks out all over the city and people start doing random acts of kindness after hearing this, then what can be done? We can't stop it. So this is called kirtan. And I'll use just this simple mantra today and a little bit of rhythm from my tabla pro here, since I don't have a tabla player with me. And I'll play the rhythm a few times and sing it, and sing the mantra along with the rhythm. And then if you wish, behind muted mics, you can just sing along with the same rhythm. Unfortunately, if we unmute on this platform, it doesn't sync. We do have other platforms that we use that help us to sync them up, but all the musicians have to be tuned into the same platform. And we'll do that someday here. We'll bring on the musicians. Right, JM? So is everyone okay for this? Did everyone sign a disclaimer that in case they start doing random acts of kindness, that it's not my fault, right? You're all good? I need a verbal yes, just like on the airplane. If you sit in the
Yes.
emergency aisle,
All
Yes.
the
they
good
come, they
karma
say
goes
no.
your way.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. Fair enough. Okay, let's try this out now. So the mantra, for the first 3 or 4 mantras, you can put it up on the screen, JM, so everyone can see it, and then you can come back into the Zoom room so we can kind of feel together, such as togetherness is these days. Nitai Gauranga, 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 Nitai Gauranga. Everybody. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Everybody. One more time. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. One more time. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. So that was, thank you very much, Rajesh. That was a kirtan. And so you can see how simply you can do a kirtan.
Right. Sorry to interrupt, but can we do an encore? That was amazing.
Sure. Okay, we'll do an encore in just a little while. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Or Charles.
That's Charles here. Happy
Thank
Friday.
you very much, Charles. Okay, yeah. We'll get an encore. And the idea is that to be carried away by the chant, and you can bring in your own instruments, whatever you like. And if you find a group, starting with 2 people, and you can move it up to more than that. I've been to some sessions. Of course, it was closed down last year, but we had a group out in North Carolina where we had about 2,000 people in a retreat center that was run. Actually, I think it's owned by the Art of Living, but they lease it out to us every year. And we have a really, really big kirtan with musicians who come in from all over the world. And it's really transforming. People come there for a weekend, like a long weekend, and it's pretty amazing. So that's kirtan. It's an age-old process of meditation that can, as one of the very early teachers of this process, who said that it's the most important process for this age, the current age that we're in. He gave a teaching that says Cheto Darpana Marjana, means it cleans your heart naturally through the music and the vibration. And he gave this metaphor: your heart is like a mirror. And when it gets dirty, dusty, or blemished in any way, then it's really hard to see yourself, see the world accurately. And that's where all our problems come in. So, this is the universal solvent, solves all problems. And you can try it for yourselves. And yes, Charles, we'll do a little encore later. Okay, so hope everyone's well after that. And let's just look in on today's topic. So we'll get a few ideas flowing here. Some of them are very practical today. That's why I thought I'd throw in some kirtan in the beginning. So this doesn't seem too corporate. I know you you get a lot of that. Let's look at and see what we have here. So what is a problem? And let's first look at your first slide, because I really thought it was a cheery slide and an interesting way of looking at life. Look at that. Problems are our friends. Don't you love that? Problems are our friends. So you have that little fellow there who's got a question mark. Like, what do I do now? He looks a little bewildered, and then the gears start turning. And that's a miracle in and of itself, that the gears start turning. I mean, how does that happen? I'm always amazed at the problems that I face in my life. But if I just bring my lunchbox and I show up, be brave, sir, show up for it and be there, and be reasonable, and just try to be yourself and work through it. It's amazing how those little gears turn. There's some supernatural power we all have to solve problems. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to have special training, although there's nothing wrong with that, and it can help to have tools. And then the light comes on. Jonas Salk, he's the one who came up with the polio vaccine. You can read his process. He said he stewed over it for a long time. That was a big problem, polio. And he was trying to come up with a vaccine, couldn't quite get it. And then one day he was waiting for his wife outside of a grocery store, and the whole formula came to him complete within his mind. The light came on, literally like that. And he hit the target. So, what is the problem-solving process? It's our life, really. That's what we do. And this is a good place to start, is to just, if you get a tattoo today, if you're going out for a tattoo, put that on your arm. Problems are our friends. Arm, neck, I don't know where else you can put them nowadays. Forehead, I guess, is still okay. All right. So now, where's the word come from? Pro means forward. And blem comes from a Proto-Indo-European word that means to throw. It means ultimately, it came from Sanskrit somewhere, to throw. So, somebody throws forward a difficult question or something that requires discussion to come to a solution. How often does that happen to you in your day, in your week, in your month? Approximately how often would you say? If you were just to, give a guess, how many times do you get something thrown in front of you where you have to solve it? And it has to fit this definition, it also has to be a little difficult too.
Multiple time a day.
We need more specifics. How many times? Just give a guess.
I do calendaring for a finance controller and his direct staff. So it's multiple times a day, and I can't count how many.
Can't count how many. That's amazing. Yeah. And if one's a mother, I mean, how many scenarios for a mother? Mothers work harder than anybody on earth, in my humble opinion. And I don't know how they do it. They deserve and get my greatest respect. But they're problem solving all day long, morning, night, evening. Somebody's building something. There's lots of problems. Yeah, somebody else.
But what a most amazing and rewarding job. I wish I could be a mom of a little one again.
Oh yeah. Why? Because the one you're doing now is harder?
Well, she's 26 and a half now.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And I only had her as my little angel until 14, and then she decided to take her own path. But let me tell you, when I look back on my journey, and the most rewarding and most appreciated gifts from being here on this journey is being a mother.
And problem solving all day long.
I love problem solving. That's why
Nice.
I chose this role.
Yeah, beautiful. And I mean, that's kind of, and I can see it from your countenance, you know, you're peaceful. And it's sort of an adjustment. Problems are our friends. If I take it that problems are for my edification, they're for my purification, then they won't be daunting. If I'm thinking life is for comfort, life is for cruising, copping a lean, as we used to say, you know, just lean out the window and drive with one finger, and the refrigerator's full, bank's full. What do I care about anything? Let me just relax. Those who are progressive, they want to make progress in life. The problem comes, it's an opportunity, right? So, yeah. Okay, let's look at a little more. So problems are something that come to all of us, no matter what occupation we're in. It's a part of life. But what makes them difficult? I just put a few ideas down here, but I'd like to hear from you too. Here's a few thoughts. You know, fear of conflict. There's a way in which I get stymied when thinking about solving a problem. Most problems, in my case, come with sticky situations between people. People have differences of opinion sort of naturally because we're all individuals, have mindsets, and so I'm conflict avoidant, or maybe there's an unknown outcome, so I just procrastinate. I don't solve the problem. Fear of change, or maybe it just seems impossible to solve. It's just there's no way this is going to get solved. These are a few thoughts of what makes problems difficult. What makes problems difficult for all of you out there? Let's hear light up the chat box and say, just in a word or two, what do you think makes a problem a problem? What's the difficulty in it?
Rajesh, go ahead. Rajiv says problems come with too much information behind them. It's a mental pain. Dennis says my mind overthinks. Anna Pan says that we are resisting something about it. R says repercussions. Pooja says conflict.
That's interesting about the resistance.
Yeah.
I found this quote the other day about this is another way of looking at problems, some problems, from James Clear. Very interesting kind of blog he has. He writes, some things are better off ignored than attacked. Attention is the oxygen of conflict. When you fight a problem, you breathe life into it. When you starve a problem of your attention, you suffocate it. In a surprising number of cases, the way to solve a problem is to ignore it. Of course, if you work in corporate and then it's like, I just ignore all my problems. But I heard Napoleon, I don't know if this is apocryphal, but Napoleon used to wait a couple of months to answer his mail because he found that 95% of the problems were solved by the time he opened it. That's kind of my approach to email. What are the kind of difficulties do people see inherent in problems?
This is Yan Yan. I wanted to share. So the problems, how do I say this? Sometimes the problem is a result of lack of perspective. But if you change your perspective or have a holistic picture of the perspective, then it's not a problem, or it's easier to solve a problem. Because like you mentioned, sometimes it seems it's impossible. But if you can share and open up, either you attract people with a similar pain, and then they can tell you the other facets of the same problem. And then you up-level yourself and look at it as that, oh, if you tackle it from one angle, it's very hard. But if you could attack it from a different um, perspective or say it differently, then everybody understand, oh, this is what we all have to chip in and do. And then that problem just melts.
As usual, Yan Yan, we're on the same wavelength because I was thinking, and I can prove it too because these are some of the slides that I wrote
I have
coming up
one
almost
perfect
verbatim.
example. I had a talk with my friend. I haven't talked to him for 20 years, and we just recently connected and we're just chatting. And he said, he's like, I'm having a midlife crisis. And I feel like I might just suck at doing everything, but just only good at, eating and enjoying life, but, not capable of doing anything else. And so I said, why did you say that? And he said, I try, because his situation is he is staying home and his wife is a nurse working at a hospital. And you know how that could be very challenging, stressful at this time. So he is trying to be helpful to his wife and he prepared the dinner. And his wife said, honey, I appreciate you trying to help. But to be honest, just leave the cooking part to me. And you can do the cleaning, chopping, and all that prep. But basically, she's saying, I'm the chef, you're the sous chef. Okay, let's be clear on that. And he was like, oh my God, why can't I do this? And he was struggling. And I said, well, have you ever thought about it? That because he's quite talented, he can sing, right? And I said, you don't be humble. You can sing. In karaoke, if you got up there, people will applaud instead of covering their ears. So he's like, okay, fine. I get that. But he said, one of my friends said, no, you cannot pursue music because you don't read the music notes and stuff, and you have your limitations. And he accepted. I said, okay, your friend is a famous singer, and you accept that your talent is not as good as his. And then same thing applies with you and your wife. She is a more talented cook than you are. Not everybody is going to be a chef. The sous chef in the restaurant are just as important. Why can't you just accept that you're very lucky that you got a chef at home? And he goes, oh yeah, if I think about it that way, yeah, sure, why not? I'll just, prepare the veggies or whatever for her, and then when she come home, cook, and then we have a dinner. No frictions, no struggle. Otherwise, he is like, oh my God.
A real life example.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I think we have Christine also in concordance with what you're saying. There is a universal concept. It's a problem when you don't like it. It's a challenge if you think you can handle it. It's a challenge if you think you can handle it. Yeah. If it's a challenge, right. Okay. Problem versus a challenge. Is it the same thing? It is the same thing, but it depends on how you see it. Nice. And what else, JM?
We have Regina, who just noted that partly imposter syndrome when you discover your own limits. And then Vesam says a problem is a problem if it is controlled by others. Wolf says when previous solutions didn't work, it's a problem, so you need to find a new solution. Bianca says root causing a problem. Yeah, Christina, we just read.
Root cause of a problem. Yeah, so let's get back to the slides, because a lot of these everyone's intuiting, and we can go back to the questions. So there's a lot of fear involved with problem solving, which we just noted. There can be various conflicts and so forth. So the very next slide, as predicted by Yan Yan, is adjusting your perspective. And that's oftentimes, or perhaps the main way that we navigate through this complicated world and overcome the anxiety that seems to be inherent with it when we don't know how to navigate. So conflict is necessary for growth. This is one of the ideas that comes out in the wisdom literatures, that as we deal with the world, then we learn its counterpart, which is our spiritual practice. And when we see the two things together, it actually gives us more insight. There's a famous verse from the Upanishads. Again, those ancient literatures, thousands of years old, packed full of wisdom. And very succinctly, it says that one should learn the spiritual side of one's existence side by side with one's material side. And so we learn as we're grappling, so to speak, with the world, and we apply the spiritual principles, and they become augmented. That is, the lessons become augmented. So conflict is necessary for growth. Another perspective that we can move into is all outcomes are unknown to us. What are we can't predict any outcome. The best laid plans are unknown. The result is unknown to us completely. So we do the best we can with what we have. Here's another quote for you. New goals don't deliver new results. New lifestyles do. And a lifestyle is a process, not an outcome. For this reason, your energy should go into building better habits, not chasing better results. All we can do is deal with ourselves. We can't be fully responsible for what the result is. You may do all the right things and the result will be opposite of what you expected. And by the way, that is the theme of the Bhagavad Gita, one of the most famous wisdom literatures. Thoreau read it, Emerson, Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a fan. Albert Einstein read it. So did Tupac Shakur and many others. So what is compelling about that literature? It's about conflict. And the great hero, warrior going into the battle says, I'm getting the opposite result that I expected. I was hoping to win the war and become king, and now I see if I win, I lose, and if I lose, I lose. And that's the teaching that comes after that in the Bhagavad Gita is that you can't control the outcome. You can only control what you do about it. So change is inevitable. That's another thing that we've talked about a lot. And if we can be patient in change. And also, this is something I discovered during the pandemic when we were working on projects around the world. And that is, if you start with the idea that anything is possible, it's very empowering. Because I found that with group and teams I was working with in various places, that when the mindset was that, well, it's not possible, it's pandemic time, and we flipped that and we said, actually, never waste a good crisis, and anything's possible. Let's start with that it can be done. Let's just work backwards from there. Anything is possible. And when anyone opens their mind for even 2 seconds to that idea that anything's possible, okay, even if it's theoretical, I'll just accept it. Anything's possible. Let's try it. Then your whole life changes. All the energy you need to solve the problem comes into play. So these are a few ideas about adjusting perspective. And one more slide. And here are a few actions that one can take in solving problems. The first is to acknowledge problems. Don't ignore them. Don't pretend they're going to go away. Embrace them. Why? Because problems are our, come on everybody, work with me. Problems are our friends. So acknowledge them and invite them. You know, they're going to come in anyway, so you might as well be nice to them and say, hey, okay, you're all right. You're my friend. I'm going to acknowledge you. And this is where progress starts in any group, team, corporation, individually. If we acknowledge our own problems, then we can start to change them into challenges, as Christine said. So another thing is to get more information. I know this goes against what Rajesh said earlier, but oftentimes problems are difficult because we don't have enough information about them. And if we collect a little more information, we might see, oh, I see, this is solvable. Another concept is to identify positions versus interest. And this is especially important when dealing with people problems, because people have positions, and that's what they say they want, as well as interests, and that's why they want it. And so if you look at an iceberg, there's the tip and then there's what's below it. And why people want things is really the bulk of the issue. What they say they want on the top is just a minute portion of the problem. So finding out what people actually want or need, why they want it, is really helpful. I know I'm speeding through these. I hope to hear from you in just a second if there's any takeaways from these. So be alert and you can just reflect back. And the next is to use nonviolent communication to overcome conflict when dealing with people. As I mentioned, dealing with people is often daunting because we don't want to hurt their feelings. However, there is a method. Actually, it's a well thought out method. I've consolidated into a one sheet. It's a whole book, but you can read that if you wish, about how to use nonviolent communication. So if you have to give bad news to somebody, or you need to express an opposite opinion or something like that, you can do it, and you can do it without any damage. By using nonviolent communication. And just having that tool in your pocket in dealing with problems can be very helpful. It's an empowering experience, knowing that you can go into a room or you can make the phone call and you can tell people the hard thing without damaging your relationship. So that removes some of the hesitation in dealing with problems. And here's one of my favorites. I saved it to the last. This actually comes out of a book from Brian Tracy, one of my favorites. Swallow that frog. Don't worry, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat frogs, but it's a metaphor. So he says, problems are like big ugly frogs. And so he said, when you're dealing with problems, pick the biggest, ugliest frog and swallow it first, because that opens up all your energy so that you can deal with all the smaller ones first. This is a discipline. It's really hard to do unless you fortify yourself with this knowledge that it is helpful to do this, and find out what's the one that you really don't want to do. And there's an old saying, face your fear and watch it disappear. And I did this the other day. I had to make a hard call, and my wife kind of reminded me, you're going to make that call, and I finally did it. And the outcome was the opposite of what I expected, and I was happy, and they were happy, and it's nice to contradict your mind by going for it, isn't it? And then your mind said, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. That didn't happen. So learn to swallow the biggest, ugliest frog first. Let's come back in the Zoom room, see if anybody wants to swallow any frogs, or whatever kind of thing you can reflect back. Anything that you heard in the slides in the last 7.5 minutes that stuck in your mind, a principle that you can take away.
Linda says the fourth bullet point reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. When surrounded by difficulties, keep low, speak less till the storm passes.
Ooh, I like that. Say it again. Linda, this is good stuff. Can you read it again?
Yes, Linda says, when surrounded by difficulties, keep low, speak less till the storm passes.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I like that keep low, speak less. I heard an interview recently when I was doing some research from a musician, and his name is Daryl Jones. I think he played, bass. He plays bass, and he's had a good career. And I in poking around in some places, studies on longevity of career and things like that, I came onto his thing and I heard a really interesting interview. And in it, one of the principles he said is, don't say everything that's on your mind. As musicians have to get along with a lot of people in networking. So he said one of the ways he had been successful in his career is not saying everything that came to his mind. For instance, when he was touring, it's very difficult. That's why bands break up all the time. If you're ever traveling with people, that's when your friendship is really tested. And so he said, he was asked, how did you get through all that? And he said, just don't say everything that's on your mind. What else, JM?
We have Nirali who says, thanks for this. I've been feeling left out or say jealous when my friends tell me she went out on vacation with other friends and sharing pictures for me to live it. I didn't feel good for a few days, but now realize that I'm fulfilled my own with my family and my vacation coming up. I was trying to come over it, and today's session helped me really feel that emptiness and feeling satisfied with myself.
Yay! It was probably the chanting at the beginning. Remember I told you that'll open everything up? Remove all obstacles in your life? It'll do it. Okay, what else, JM?
Subhadra says, our life is a problem-solving process.
Yes. And if you tattoo that on your arm, forehead, neck, or wherever you're supposed to put them these days, and remember that life is a problem-solving process, then you got a lot of opportunity because there are all kinds of problems to solve constantly, and it makes you a better person. Yeah. What else, JM?
We have Besam, who's inquiring about the quotes that you referred to. We can maybe send it after the class.
Sure.
And Linda says, Nirali, always remember, you are right where you are meant to be.
Yeah, and also adding to that, wherever you go, there you are. There's a famous, the poet Blake had written about how the mind can make heaven into hell and hell into heaven. Wherever you go in the world, you take your mind with you. And so if you're aligned inwardly, then you transform the environment. It's not that the environment will bring you up or down. We have our own inner weather. You can ask Siri, what's my mind going to do today? Where's it going to be? You have to find out for yourself and watch it, because if you're the watcher, you can see it coming and going. And, people can be in an idyllic situation and really feel overwhelmed. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
We have we've got on Facebook Vladislava, who says, never waste a good crisis. That's great. And Bhaktin Rafala says, swallow the biggest frog first. She liked it as well.
Great. Fantastic. Yes.
Yan, I have something to add to that. It's also a life story. So you mentioned that, you need more information to solve the problem, right? And also swallow the biggest, ugliest frog. So I have a example that we were engaging with other business units to help us solve a problem. And in the beginning, this group was very willing. And then as I thought it was going smooth, then my partner came back to me and said, no, they are stalling. They're not doing this and that. So I'm like, that doesn't look familiar. And what is it? What it is the partner started to ask a whole bunch of questions. And they are saying, I don't understand this. I don't understand that. So our group would take it as they don't want to do it. But in reality is, for them to actually do a good job, they need a clarification. They need to drill down to the details and say, what exactly do you want me to do? I can do it, but I don't want to do it the wrong way that doesn't meet your need. And they want to swallow the biggest, ugliest frog. That's a cleanup effort. And they were all planned out. But our group said, that's too slow. We're going to be killed by customs already. So what happened is we aligned and said, oh, okay, that's your biggest, ugliest frog. To us, don't swallow that. I know you have the best intention to ready to swallow it, but don't swallow it. Put a bandage, put some stop the bleeding effort first, okay? That's all we're asking. Just snap the finger, stop, shut off the valve first. And then you can take your time to swallow that frog. You can cut it, you can piece it, you can fry it, however you want it. But buy us the time, shut off the valve first. And then we're all aligned. There's no problem. We can proceed. But without that answering their question, without assuming the best intention, then we could get into a conflict. what? Why don't you want to do what we agreed to? But no, it's clarification that help us get the better perspective than, yes, everybody wants to solve the problem, just have a different perspective.
Thank you, Yan Yan. That actually segues into my next slide, as usual. Let's see. That has to do with defining the problem. So there's a problem definition filter, and this is how it works. Examine the current situation, because oftentimes a problem just appears. It actually means problem. Something is thrown in front of us. So examine it. Take a minute to look at it. What is it actually? And write it down. What is the problem exactly? The problem we are going to solve is blank. So once you write it down, now you've really acknowledged it, and now you're starting to define it carefully. Now you can filter it even more through this process, as we had in another section about asking questions. Questions are the answer. And that is repeatedly ask, why is this a problem? And keep asking that until you get down to what you feel is the root problem. So this can be expressed as, you may be one why away from finding the root. It could happen with one why, that is W-H-Y, or several. But if you ask the question, why is this a problem? And you keep asking, you filter it down, and then you get something that you can actually deal with. I read a book on rhetoric a few years ago from a professor at New York University. And in his book called How to Win an Argument, he points out that most people, when they're arguing about something, forget what they're arguing about. And that's one of the main drawbacks in arguments, is people start arguing and it takes a different route. And then they keep arguing, but it's not about the core problem or the core issue. So we can be faced with problems and then forget exactly what the problem is. So this is where we can actually use our finer intellect or our refined intellect to look carefully. It's like, why is this actually a problem? And once you know that, then you got something you can hit. So attitudes, my favorite mantra, I have to say I made this one up, but I keep it always in my pocket because I can pull it out when any problem comes, and that is be methodical but dispassionate. So there's a inverse relationship between our emotion and our ability to reason. There's a graph actually that shows it. And so be dispassionate, just troubleshoot it and walk through it, because the outcome can go any direction. All you have to do is do your duty and do what you're supposed to do to try to solve the problem. Don't overreact or become emotional about it, because then your ability to analyze it properly will diminish and you won't be able to do very well in solving the problem. Now we come to a more metaphysical part, and this goes down to the root. And that is, the root of all problems is thinking, I am my body and mind. And this is actually memorialized in an ancient Sanskrit verse that says, Bhayam dvitya abhinibheshita syad. So bhayam means fear. And abhinibheshita means being absorbed in thinking, I am this body and I am this mind. And we've done a lot of work on that type of perspective in this class over the last year or two. And really it is possible to notice that you're not the body, you're not the mind. And through the process of japa, mantra meditation and so forth, we can start to see, actually, I'm something different. So what the verse says is, a fear arises when you connect with the body, because the body's temporary and you're not. So it becomes an incompatible situation that throws us out of balance. So what's the solution? The solution to all problems at the root is seeing I'm not my body and mind. And when you're when you embrace this and realize it to the degree that you can through your process of mantra meditation, selfless service, then all the other principles we mentioned, which are more or less mechanical, you can apply very easily because you have this base to work from.
Excuse me.
Yes.
One question.
Yes.
Please. So you were saying emotions, like they really like come in the way of a solution, right? So I thought that they said if you manage your emotions, then you actually are better prepared to solve a problem. Can you?
Yeah, it basically means the same thing. Don't manage your emotions, don't let them overwhelm you. If you've ever noticed that if you speak while you're angry, then afterwards you can count on the fact that you're going to regret it because it's such a powerful emotion. It just takes away the rationality behind it. It's like you are don't say it, because you're angry right now. It's not going to work. But if you're able to manage your emotions, as you're saying, and use as an example, you use nonviolent communication. So you have some emotion. Yes, that's what drives you. You have to have it. We have emotion.
Yes.
We're not going to eliminate them at all. But what we do is we channel them in a very productive way. So this is what means managing the emotion. Don't let so there's a difference between losing your temper and using your temper. So when you lose your temper, it beats you up and beats up everybody around you, and you end up losing. And it's like, any of the world wars you can think of, both countries or all countries involved got decimated, economically, physically, in every which way. It doesn't matter. When you go to war, everybody gets gets smashed. So when you become angry, you lose your temper, you get smashed, they get smashed, the whole thing, you got to start over again. But if you know how to manage your emotions, very good point. That helped put a real good refinement on that one.
Yes, because sometimes like only like with courage and I don't know, probably anger, you get to do things that you wouldn't have done otherwise if you weren't in that.
Yeah, but handle with
Okay.
care. When you pull
Yes.
into the gas station, they say don't light a match. There's fuel there, but be very careful with it. It's flammable, right?
Okay.
So yeah, good point. You helped
Thank
a
you.
lot. So why problems are our friends? All progress comes while problem solving. I'm going to stand by that. And I love this, what JM did here, problem to progress. So these principles hopefully are some that you can take away and utilize. And because Charles is such a loyal attendee in all of these programs, and he asked for an encore, let's end with a little kirtan. What do you say?
Blessed, truly blessed.
All right, Charles, thank you very much. Okay, so this mantra we take a look at again. We can look at it on the screen. Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga. Okay, little tabla. In kirtan, there's a singer will sing the tune. So then listen, and then everybody respond. And so just I go through one mantra, then you hear it, then you respond, and then we go back and forth. Nitai Goranga, Nitai Nitai Goranga, Nita. Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga. Everybody. Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga. Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga. Everybody. One more time. Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga. Thanks, everybody. And we can sign off by using the greeting, kind of like in Hawaii. Hawaiians say aloha for hello and goodbye. So the yogis high in the Himalayas, when they meditate in caves for many days, months, and then they come out into the bright sunlight, and when they see one another on the path going to collect some roots, then they wave to each other and they say this phrase, which means keep the transcendental vibration going, one of the great secrets of spiritual practice. And it goes like this: Hari Bol. And
Haribol.
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 Haribol. Haribol. Thank you, everybody.
Haribol.
See you soon. Haribol.
Thanks.